Welcome back, my friends. It's Tom the Chosen One again with another impressions video, and today we're taking a look at a very neat game. That is, of course, we're taking a look at a boomer shooter because I just absolutely love them. Because you go around, you shoot people, you blow people up into gibs and little guts, and it's wonderful. But it's not the one that you're probably thinking about, which is probably Warhammer 40,000 bolt gun. No, today we're going to take a turn towards a testicular torsion. You know why? Because the game we're going to talk about is Twisted, and we're talking about Zane's very own Slayer's X, Terminal Aftermath, Vengeance of the Slayer. But before we get into it, of course, it's an impressions video, so we're going to have a swig of beer. This comes from Birrificio Angelo Poretti, which is, I don't know, it's from somewhere in Italy, but it's warm over here. I'm a little too warm to be in this damn house coat, but you know what? Got a big beer to take it with me, so let's take a swig. You might immediately ask me such things as, hey Tom, why the hell are you not doing a video on Warhammer 40,000 bolt gun, which seems to be right up your alley. It's a boomer shooter with great visuals, absolutely exquisite combat, and of course set in a universe that I absolutely love, wielding the great weapons of an Adeptus Astartes of the Ultramarines chapter. And to answer that question, all I have to ask is, does Warhammer 40k Bolt Gun have a soundtrack made by a bunch of Linkin Park rejects and a man that above all else tries to idolize Limp Bizkit? And the answer is of course, hell no! So, let's introduce Slayer's X, Terminal Aftermath, Vengeance of the Slayer. Slayer's X, which I'm going to keep short from now on for my own sanity, is a little bit like testicular torsion, like I said, in the sense that it comes from the twisted mind of Zane Lofton, a once teenager in the 90s Boise, Idaho, who created this whole world and game in his head. And 20 years later, it finally got developed into the game that he dreamed about, Seepage track after Seepage track and all. For some real-world context to all of this, the game is sort of a sequel to a game known as Hypnospace Outlaw, developed by No More Robots in 2019. And in that game, you play the role of a sort of enforcer for a company and basically sleuthing the internet in 1999 for illegal content, copyright violation, viruses, and many other not-so-great things to have up on the Hypnospace. In doing your little cyber sleuthing, you'll come across a variety of interesting characters, their own web pages, businesses, and eventually get to know about them over a period of time that develops several storylines and interesting interactions in this wonderful reimagining of the dawn of the Millennium Internet. One of your characters in this game is Zane Lofton, which is basically your late 90s teen that listens to nu metal and makes an abundance of mom jokes at your expense, and he had a pretty interesting little storyline. Jump forward to the present, and No More Robots thought to develop a sequel, or spin-off boomer shooter to promote the development of Dream Settler, which is their next title in this universe. But Slayer's X is the in-universe darling of Zane and his wild, goofy little tricks. So, to finally get to the game, Slayer's X is a boomer shooter inspired by the shooters of yore, like Doom, Wolfenstein, Duke Nukem, and other greats like Blood. But the twist this time around is that it's kind of a giant mess of different influences and feelings which most people might just downright despise, but I as sure hell don't. Sort of like Cruelty Squad back from 2021, this is a game that it's not going to be for everyone's taste, simply because of the kind of the humor that's in the game, and the rather simplistic shooter gameplay doesn't really do anything super different. But anyway, in Slayer's X, Terminal Aftermath, Vengeance of the Slayer, you play the role of Zane, a young ex-slayer that is just not strong enough for you to wield the S-Blade, which can be infused with hack blood energy. The story begins with Zane, Stephanie, and his mentor, Mikey Psyche, all getting attacked by the Psykos Syndicate, which in turn blows up Zane's apartment, blows up his mom, and then kills Mikey Psyche. So with his family destroyed and S-Blade in his hand, he will fulfill his destiny in becoming the most powerful X-Slayer and destroy the Psycho Syndicate, which is led by Mevin Raniels, his former boss at the dollar store, and most importantly, his stepdad. Ooh-wee. Now that is quite a preamble, but honestly fellas, if I didn't do any more than that, Zane would probably come over here and call me a turd. So I gotta do it to him. But anyway, let's get into the gameplay of Slayer's X. Like all other boomer shooters, Slayer's X takes a simplistic approach to its design, and in the case of just having 7 sick weapons and 9 nauseous levels, which may not seem like a lot for a game that has been in development for over 2 decades, but to be honest fellas, this is Zane's capolavoro. Each of the 7 weapons are basically proxies for other weapons that you'd find in other shooters, but they have a real wicked twist to them. Like instead of those normal looking boring ass pistols, we get Zane's specialized double pistols that have the added awesome power of shooting Gangsta style. Or take the glorious glass blaster that takes your average shotgun, whether it be a double barrel or pump action, and turns it into a devious device where you shove a piece of glass shard right into the glass barrel and you blast it at whatever psycho is insane enough to get up in your face. And most of all is the sickest sludge launcher, where you are slogging over cans of, let's just say, sludge. Because it most certainly isn't those disgusting little creatures that just so happen to look like turds shoved into a can so you would be slinging over cans of poo. No sir, Zane would never do that. But if you can believe it, there is a power within all of us that will turn the tide of the battle. And that is, of course, hack blood that you're gonna get from slicing and dicing your enemies, and you will use it to your advantage as Mikey Psyche has intended. There's 2 ways to properly harness your hack blood. The first comes from destroying enough of the psychos so that your S-Blade will have a hack blood charge, and the other will require the use of the elusive hack blood talisman. For the S-Blade, once you get it to a hack blood charge of 95, then when you slice with the S-Blade, you will harness the hack blood to rip the very fabric of reality apart and destroy all those stupid psychos in your path. The other more useful and more powerful attack requires the use of the special hack blood talisman, only given to the most powerful of Mikey Psyche's disciples. And once you wear it, you can feel the very hack blood within you course through your veins and shoot out all cool like out of your hands in a giant ball of energy. This ball will pretty much one-shot, one-kill most psychos, but if there's just a bunch of turds in your way and you need to get through, then you can hold down the energy into a consistent hack blood beam that will surely destroy all in your path. Where does the power of hack blood come from? Some say it comes from somewhere, but the fact of the matter is that the secret probably went with Mikey Psyche when he died. So sadly, we'll never know the truth of hack blood or Zane's dad. But with the weapons and the combat out of the way, I think it's time that we talk about the wonderful, masterful writing that Zane has brought to us on our pizza-laden table. Alright, okay, so now to drop the act that I've been kind of doing this whole time, I guess it's time to talk about the fact that Slayer's X Terminal Aftermath Vengeance of the Slayer is kind of a big, dumb, wonderful joke of a game, and honestly, if you like this kind of humor, then it'll be right up your alley. The game is written as if it was originally written by a Mountain Dew drinking, Limp Bizkit listening, and Idaho Gold potato eating teen right out of Boise, Idaho in the 90s, and it shows in oh so many wonderful little details. For one, the setting and the plot of the game is just a wonderful barrage of silly terms and alliterations, like Psycho Syndicate, Secret Sewer, and rhyming names and the likes of Mikey Psyche, which you then combine with the mundane, like Zane being this incredible X-Slayer, but still has to work at the Boise dollar store, which is managed by his arch nemesis of Melvin, who's not just the leader of the Psycho Syndicate, but, as I said before, his stepdad. That's not even mentioning the plot of the game, where the main catalyst of this goofy adventure is the Psychos blowing up Zane's apartment, which to Zane was no big deal, But the second that they also blew up Zane's mom is when it got too personal, so he's gonna go and revenge her. Now you might have noticed that I said revenge her instead of avenge her, and you might think that's a typo, but no my friends, this is all too deliberate, because that is from the mind of Zane. So if you think there's gonna be a whole bunch of typos and different like misspellings, then don't worry about it, because that is the point, and it's not a misspelling. And when I mean there are comical misspellings everywhere, I mean that there are comical misspellings everywhere, ranging the gambit between biting my time with biting like taking a bite out of a psyko, to one of my favorite ones being in the little text that shows when you pick up a glass shard for the glass blaster. It says picked up 3 glass shards with a friggin' T. Hell, the most obvious one that I didn't even see until taking a look for more misspellings is Vengeance in the title of Vengeance of the Slayer. Or at the beginning when Zane is talking about the S-Blade with this word wielder being spelled Y-E-L-D-E-R. Now Zane, I ain't no X-Slayer, and I know that you, hearing me doubt you probably think I'm smoking that sticky green, but I trust you, my friend. I know that you're a CEO and a cajillionaire, so whatever choices you did in the spelling, I trust you with it, because you probably know more than I do. But with the writing out of the way, I think we should take a look at the presentation of Slayer's X, and man oh man, that's its own fun little romp to go through, so let's get into it. The audio portion of Slayer's X I'll leave for a little bit later, since I have a few things to say about that, but when you hear how this game got developed, it shouldn't be too hard to believe that the visuals are both wonderfully creative and just a friggin' mess when it needs to be. To start off, all the weapons look ridiculous as all hell, as I have described, with the wonderful visuals of Zane launching poo in various psychos, or shooting his dual pistols Gangsta style with little Zane style S's where the safety should be. Then there's the psychos themselves that cause all sorts of problems, but in their own nefarious ways have a very interesting aesthetic, which is something a turd would say, but nonetheless the gambit ranges from your typical psycho that just shoot normal pistol rounds at you, but after that it gets, well, more psycho with injectors that are psychos that have been smoking a bit of that sticky green and have a giant syringe on their head that immediately when seeing you will go and rush towards you and headbutt whatever nastiness they got in their syringe right in your head. There's also 2 different ones that I love because they just don't shut up, and that has to be the Jester, which is a giant brain that floats in the air with a jester's cap that shoots little balls of energy your way, and the other big one being called a spring jacker that laughs and launches little bouncy bombs your way, continually singing bouncy bouncy till you kill them. We can also see some other interesting quirks in the visual design, such as how a lot of the enemy sprites, where it seems that they don't really have a side sprite, so to speak, so when they are moving in such a way where you see them from the side, they're almost completely flat at times. So I'm not sure if that was Zane's intention, but it just adds to what this goofy game is all about. Aesthetically though, the game showcases perfectly the sort of dumpy place that Boise, Idaho must have been in the 90s, with the likes of your Sloppo Burgers, Dollar Shaver dollar stores, and of course the Boise Potato Festival, with all of its potato-themed attractions, but watch out for some of the goons, because it might look like a potato, but really, it's a turd. And finally on turds, I will say that personally, I have to hand it to Zane. I think Slayer's X has the single greatest poop texture in all of gaming that just magnificently shows the turdiness in all of its glory. Yeah, but that's enough about turds. Let's go on to the music of Slayer's X, because oh boy, it's its own wild thing. That's going to be fun. For one, I will say that Zane has some particularly great taste because most of the soundtrack for Slayer's X is done by the band known as Seepage, which stars this game's very own Mikey Psyche as the lead singer. How cool is that? You'll hear some of the various songs through the game, such as the classic Against the Wall, Break Me, and Nothing Left for Me, but the ones you'll probably hear is Against the Wall that is remixed in a variety of different ways that correspond with Zane's mood, being anywhere from looking for Psyko's moms and then putting them in an S-Blade Herk Locker Gangsta style. We also get a few songs by Bubblegum Octopus that are completely mental, such as Roadkiller, which is probably my favorite track in the whole game, and it just puts you in the right mind palace to destroy the Psyko Syndicate. And also, speaking of Psyko Syndicate, they have a few tracks, but hey, we're not gonna talk about it. But going further than the soundtrack for Slayers X is all the rest of the sounds in this game, and they go all the way from silly, simple gunshot sounds to the most comedically annoying enemy dialogue I have heard in a game for a long time that does an exquisite job of wanting me to destroy them as quickly as I can. And it's not just that they are annoying, but the whole soundscape for the game is so comically loud that when all the gears are spinning, like the wonderful soundtrack blasting, the enemies laughing and throwing ticking, ringing, bouncy bombs, and then you got a boombox playing a super compressed version of Nothing Left for Me by Seepage, playing loud, which is, as an aside, I bet was ripped from one of Zane's CDs. What a gentleman. Then you combine this all together, and I honestly had a giant smile on my face and would be laughing my ass off when the game is just so stupid loud. I can assure you that this might not be for everyone, but if you like this trash, then you really do owe it to yourself to enjoy the greatest chaos that can be conjured from the wildest apprentice of the Steel Sewer. And of course, if you think the soundtrack is sick, which it is, I'll link the Bandcamp page for the game below so you can give Zane more money for stealing everybody's copyright. And so my friends, we're kind of here near the end, and it's the point where I go, do I recommend this game? Do I not recommend this game? And honestly fellas, if you love boomer shooters, then it is your duty to go out there and try out Zane's Mastapeese and Slayers X. Slayers X, while not being the most innovative boomer shooter out there, is quite possibly the funniest one that I have played in a long time. With all the multitude of silly jokes that hit me in the right spot to make me cackle like a madman, or in this case like a jester. Sure, there are other options when it comes to boomer shooters out right now, like the wonderful Warhammer 40,000 bolt gun. But Slayers X is at a very affordable price of $20 Canadian or 16 euros. But you can also get the Hypnospace Outlaw and Slayers X for $40 Canadian or 30 euros respectively, which I would say is a great bundle if you haven't played Hypnospace either, which I would awesomely super recommend. And of course, if all of that is still a bit too much for you, then you also have Game Pass, which those games have been released for the service, and you can get it as part of your Game Pass subscription, which is kind of how I played Slayers X. And hey fellas, that's basically the end of the video. As per usual, if you made it this far, thank you so much. I really do appreciate and love every single one of your views all the way here. And if you're new, then hey, welcome to the channel. I hope you like it, and if you really do like it, maybe go see my other videos and subscribe, because we got a multitude of cool little things that we talk about, such as boomer shooters, survival horror, and, you know, I do a bunch of other stuff. Anyways, fellas, this is Tom the Chosen One out here, probably gonna head to the secret sewer right away here, because man, oh man, I've been eating too many Sloppos burgers, and man, I just don't think I'm gonna make it. So I'll see you guys next time.